Hello, and welcome back to A Hushed Hideaway. Uh, First of all, I want to kind of apologize. I do have a bit of a cold, so if you do hear that, that is why. But today we are going to explore a place that has everything from unexplained sounds to things getting moved, people feeling like they are being watched, even seeing things that shouldn't be there, including a ghost cat. So this place has been deemed one of the most haunted hotels in America, but it wasn't always just a hotel. So this place has not only an immense amount of paranormal activity, but amazingly rich history dating back into the 1880s, residing in a very well-known city for an abundance of ghostly encounters. We are traveling all the way down to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, to the Crescent Hotel. Okay, so this is a place that I have personally visited 3 times, and I still haven't yet gotten to actually stay in the hotel itself. But the history of such a small town and now a hotel on top of the Ozark Mountains overlooking the hills is so full. I learn something new each and every single time I go back. And I do want to plan to go back for another visit, maybe here soon. But in order to understand all of the different hauntings and all the reported incidences, I think first we really need to dive into some of the place's history. So, Eureka Springs, Arkansas is famous for its hot springs, a place where people back in the 1880s used to swear it had magical healing properties. When in reality, if you ask me, things were just healing because they were probably actually just cleaning themselves. But hey, when the word started getting out about the magical healing springs, Isaiah S. Taylor designed the Crescent Hotel and Spa, a Victorian upscale place built out of limestone, a natural limestone that they actually brought up to the top of the mountain to lay the base on. And it opened its doors in 1886 after about 2 years of construction as a secluded place where wealthy people, aka the rich and famous, could come and enjoy the healing benefits of the springs for themselves. But to get back to the first tragedy of this place, which it does seem to be an epicenter of tragedies, even to this day, you have to go back before the place was even open for business. The tragic events started during the construction of the hotel. It actually happened to a stonemason by the name of Michael. It was said that Michael was a ladies' man, very handsome, very, very much into what we would call a player, right? Okay. And he was looking at some girl passing by, catcalling, trying to get her attention. Well, as he was doing this, he wasn't paying attention and he fell from multiple stories up to his ultimate death. Okay. Many years later, people still claim to see his ghost kind of hanging around in the same room where he fell. You can actually stay in what's called Michael's room, which is room 218. It's actually one of the more active rooms, apparently. Although if you are staying and you are a woman, there have been reports of feeling like somebody's watching you in the shower, the curtains being ripped back, like actually moving while you're in the shower. The feelings of like being touched, just kind of an eerie feeling if you're a woman, especially. Personally, I think it can make for a really interesting bachelorette party. I would be down for some girls trip. Be funny as fuck. Anyways, shortly after its opening, a young girl said to be about 5 or 6 years old stumbled over the staircase and fell to her death from the 4th floor down to the basement below. So in this hotel, you can actually go up all the floors, and in an area you can see from the very top floor all the way down to the basement. It's kind of crazy. And we'll get back to that later as well. But back to our timeline, the Crescent Hotel and Spa didn't stay open for long before our financial problems closed its doors. It became less trendy to take the pricey vacations of taking the waters, as what they used to say. So it was sold and later reopened in 1908 as the Crescent College and Conservatory for Young Women. So a group of investors purchased the building, turning it into a school in the off-tourist season to make up for some of the money that they couldn't get from people visiting to take in the waters anymore. It was supposed to be a first-class accommodations and very prestigious that wealthy families from across the nation would send their daughters to. Now, during this time, another tragedy happened. The dean's son fell ill and unfortunately died in the hotel as well. People still report to see and hear children's voices and the bouncing of a ball down the hallway at night. They claim that it's his son, or maybe possibly it was the little girl that fell. Who knows? But one semester took another tragic turn. But okay, so for this story, I have heard two tales. The second tale I've heard multiple times. The first tale is a little less popular. So the first one is that a pregnant young girl fell in love with a local boy from a poor family in town. Now, her father had forbidden them to continue the relationship, and she was pregnant. And in desperation, she threw herself from the uppermost balcony right into the gardens below, not wanting to live any longer. But the more popular tale, and what I've heard multiple times, is that the girl and a professor became romantically involved, and she falls in love with him, becoming pregnant with his child. Now, he couldn't have this information getting out. It was scandalous. But she wanted a life with him. So rumor has it that she either threw herself off in desperation, or perhaps she was pushed to keep the secret just that. Forever a secret. Some have reported seeing her ghostly figure falling from the 4th-story balcony. Others have reported being woken up by her screams. And some say they have looked up to see a shadowy figure peering down from the balcony above. Now, it is kind of spooky if you look up from the back garden back up to that balcony. It is a little creepy, even just knowing the history in general. But the girls' school covered it up as much as possible and stayed in business until 1934, during the Great Depression, forcing its closure. Now, the hotel side sat nearly empty for a long time, with people not being able to afford a vacation during that drastic time. But here's where things start to get really creepy and ultimately just messed up. So 3 years later, in 1937, it was purchased by a complete psychopath. If you ask me, I consider him an absolute serial killer. But anyways, this man claimed to be a doctor with a miracle cure for cancer and a number of different ailments. He said, all ailments are welcome. His name was Dr. Norman Baker. Not a real doctor, by the way. No medical license. He had been ran out of Iowa for practicing without a license and moved his patients to his new health resort at the Crescent, the Baker Cancer Center, or the Baker Hospital. He called it all of it. He would send out mailers that lured in the sick and wealthy and forced the dying patients to sign a paper that he would send out to their families. And it said that his castle in the sky was some kind of miracle practice and that they had never felt any better. He would send them even after they would die, making their families believe that they were still alive, sending him more money. Now, he would also try to accept patients without any very close relatives. Obviously, he would still accept others. He wanted the money. But, and he promised that if they were cured in 6 weeks, that they wouldn't have to pay a penny. Obviously, that never happened. He never cured one person that stepped foot into that place. Of course, that sounded great for some. Those with cancer thinking, hey, what do I have to lose? Because, well, they were going to die anyway. And they see all these amazing things being put out about this miracle healing place. And why wouldn't they want to try just one more thing? But they had no clue that they were literally paying to be tortured to death, because his ways were far from harmless. He would inject them with his treatments, all ranging from just natural spring waters to mixtures and elixirs that he would make up himself. Sometimes he would even inject it into a hole in their heads that he would make in their heads, and he would eject it in there. One of his elixirs contained watermelon seeds, corn silk, and clover. He would try experiments on them and then isolate the patients that were in the suffering wing, also known as a psychiatric ward. So that way he could claim that they were just going crazy. So not to scare any of the other patients. After they would ultimately pass away, which was inevitable, the nurse would move the bodies down to the morgue at night or early morning by a gurney down this long hallway, so not to be seen. These rooms where these patients would stay right before their death have been turned into suites and honeymoon getaways. People have stated that they have heard squeaking wheels from the gurney going down the hallway in the middle of the night, or seeing something at the end of the beds looking at them, almost as if a nurse was there to pick them up and move them. People have claimed to see reflections of somebody standing at their end of the bed or over them while they're sleeping in the turned off TV as well. So yeah, that's enough to tell me, no, I'm not going to go in there. It is said, even though there isn't an actual counted number for deaths during the reign of the fake cancer hospital due to the bodies being buried and scattered in various different places, some of which are probably still on the property itself, but it is thought to be well into the hundreds. Archaeologists have dug up dozens of bottles out of the ground at the back of the hotel a few years ago and were believed to have contained medical specimens from the years of Norman Baker, which now reside in the morgue. So in 2019, over 400 glass bottles with human tissues and tumors were unearthed in the hotel's back garden. You can actually see them in person if you go on one of their all the different tours that they have. Now, mind you, he also said that he has flyers stating that he will not ever use a knife. He will never cut anything off, all this stuff. And he literally has all of this stuff put into jars. He definitely tortures patients. In 1940, after years of Baker getting away from the law, they were finally able to get a federal charge for him on mail fraud and only spent 4 years in jail. He kept on skirting the law, finding ways to not get caught. He got caught on mail fraud, and he was there for 4 years. Baker spent the remainder of his days super comfortable in Florida, and till he ironically died from, you guess it, cancer. Yeah. The Crescent Hotel was then left ownerless until the spring of 1946, when it was purchased by John R. Constantine, Herbert E. Shutter, Herbert Bayfield, and Dwight Nichols. But it wasn't long after that, in 1967, that the hotel was nearly burned to the ground. The only living owner at this time was Dwight Nichols. In 1997, Marty and Elise Roenick purchased the Crescent Hotel for $1.3 million and overseeing a 6-year restoration and renovations of the hotel rooms. Marty unfortunately dies in a car crash in 2009, leaving Elise to remain as the hotel's current owner. In 2016, the building was finally listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Now, next to the morgue area is a laundry room, and a maintenance man saw once all the washer and dryers turn on in the middle of the night. The laundry room still has his right next to the laundry room in the basement. It still has the autopsy table and the walk-in freezer. You can actually see them when you go in the basement. You can still see the bottles and wheelchairs that were used, even walk into the place where he kept his bodies, which is creepy. They said that he used to stack like bodies till it was completely full inside this huge freezer. It's absolutely heart-wrenching and chill-inducing if you walk in there. Now, the place looks as if it was actually frozen in time. It really is a beautiful piece of property overlooking like a valley on top of on top of a mountain. The view is spectacular. It's unlike any other that I've found, especially in the Ozarks. And the beauty around you can make you forget all the tragedy that has happened and yet to come. But the feeling that you get when you're there is strange, to say the least. So the the big cafeteria area, that's where they have, it's like a restaurant, like a breakfast area now. It's had menus spread all over the room from the night before, chairs moved, and just a like really eerie feeling. In room 419, the housekeepers kept seeing the ghost they would call Theodora, who was constantly seen fumbling with her keys. She introduces herself to them as a cancer patient and vanishes after her greeting. Now, those who meet her describe her as prim and proper old lady. The housekeepers also sometimes happen to find the room tidied up by her before having to do it themselves, but allegedly only if she enjoys the guests' company. She even has said to have packed the guests' luggage before. So if she doesn't like you, she'll put your stuff back in your luggage and put it by the door. There has been multiple things about that that has come out from people who have stayed there to this day. I don't know about that, but maybe it's housekeepers. Maybe it's not. I don't want to find out. Now, a reoccurring phenomenon happens in the spot on the 3rd floor where the hotel connects to an annex built onto the hotel when it was a hospital. So the area has said, now take this as you will, to be a portal to the other side. Okay. Multiple guests have grown faint, with a few passing out briefly at the same spot on the nightly ghost tour with no reasonable explanation. The occurrences go in spurts, and many happening over several weeks or months, and then none for some time. Guests suddenly turn pale, falling against, and then sliding down the wall in a faint. Although the loss of consciousness does not tend to last very long, a complete recovery is immediate and tends to further substantiate the hotel's legendary supernatural connection to the paranormal. They believe, the supernatural world believes, that limestone is part of the reason for all the supernatural occurrences. It kind of intensifies it. Not only in the hotel, but because the hotel was built with the natural limestone, but from the natural spring that runs throughout the whole city of Eureka Springs. I believe the limestone releases like electromagnetic and psychic energies that allows it to travel through, intensifying the amount of paranormal activity for the ghosts to show themselves. Now, personally, I have been there. I have taken my own pictures, which I could only find a few that I've taken, but I definitely had a few pictures that were really creepy. There was one that I swear you could see half of a woman's body from about chest up. It was old Victorian looking. She was in front of a window in one of the hallways. It was actually the hallway to where you could turn to go to where they say the honeymoon suites are now, where the Gertie goes through. That was that hallway right before there that I got that creepy picture. I wish I could have found it for you. Other than that, it just kind of gives you an eerie feeling. I would not step foot into the elevator. It just didn't. I didn't want to. It was creepy. It really is pretty. It's just creepy. Now, this last time that I was there, it was probably 3 years ago now. They said that there is always tragedies still happening to this day in the hotel, still taking lives. So right before, I don't remember how long they said it was before, but it was long enough that they still had to replace the carpet. They said there was this wedding party, because you can have your weddings there. They were coming, and one of the groomsmen, they were drinking a lot, and in the stairway, it's kind of like I'll put a picture up, but it's kind of like you could see right down the middle of it, and you can go over the railing, kind of like how the 4-year-old did. But they were drinking a lot, and he lost his stumbling on the 4th story, fell over the railing all the way down into the basement. And the basement's actually where you can go into the spa area, or it leads to this little back alleyway that goes to where the washer and dryers and stuff is, and then it can lead to the basement where the morgue is. But where the spa is, there's a carpet, so that leads all the way down there to where the spa is. And you could look down, because the only reason why we even asked is because we were like, like, what's going on here? Was there like a leak or something? And she explained it to us like, no, the groomsmen fell from all the way up there. And okay, mind you, it's going to get pretty graphic for a second. This is exactly what she told us. She said he fell so hard that his head split open, drained out of blood, and his brains splattered all over the room. They had to clean brains off of the wall, which still had stains, and the carpet where it was still had the blood stains that they had yet to been able to get out. Now, that was kind of eerie, as it was, because they said that it seems to always have tragedies happening there. It was just kind of creepy seeing that. But yeah, so I guess you always can learn something new. And go back to a ghost cat, because I did mention that earlier. They used to have a cat that stayed on the premises for years and years and years, and they actually have a picture of the cat hanging up in there. And it's buried on the property now. The poor baby passed away, but people say that they see a ghost kitty. My mom swears she got a picture of it. I don't think it was, but that's what she swears. She got a picture of the ghost cat. I tried to find that for you too. I couldn't find any of our photos that we had. But in 2004, the hotel was actually on Ghost Hunters, Taps, if you know what I'm talking about. And lots of stuff that they found there, it can still be seen, and you can have the possibility of actually experiencing it yourself. So you can see like all the places of the things that they found, and you can see those actual places. There's one like right in front of the locker where they found some stuff. Look up the episode. It's actually kind of interesting, especially before you go, if you decide to go. There's no way I could go through everything that has been experienced here at this hotel, or all the tragic stories, because there's just so many. It is something that even after multiple times that I have gone, I keep learning more and more about this place. And if you think that this hotel isn't enough, the whole town of Eureka Springs, Arkansas is full of mysterious places with multiple accounts of paranormal activity and absolute insane history. It's honestly just a morbid town in itself. But you definitely need to go. And there's so many, even there's like the Basement Hotel. There's a history tour that goes throughout all of like the underground tunnels and stuff like that, where sometimes they would carry the bodies out from the Crescent Hotel. It's insane. It would take me another probably 2-3 hours to go through everything. But so whether you love history or you're just a paranormal fanatic and you want to visit a hotel rated America's most haunted hotel, take a trip, maybe even stay the night if you're brave enough. Whether you believe in it or you don't, coming here might make you question everything you have ever thought before, might give you chills just thinking of the history. It's definitely somewhere that's very rich in historical aspects as much as it is in creepy feelings. Anyways, today, word of the day is Raconteur. Raconteur. A person who excels in telling stories in a skillful, amusing way. So Raconteur has old French roots. If you're a sage of sagas, a bard of ballads, or pro in prose, you may have lost count of the accounts you have recounted. Some might call you a recounter, but as a master of narrative form, you may find that the recounter lacks a certain je ne sais quoi. Sure, it has a cool story. It traces back to a Latin verb, computere, meaning to count, but so do many words. Compute and computer, count and account, and neither last nor least, Raconteur is a sing-song title, better fit for a whimsical storyteller. English speakers borrowed Raconteur from the French in the early 19th century. It originated in 18th century France to describe professional storytellers who entertain audiences in salons and literary gatherings. The term is now applied more broadly to any skilled storyteller, regardless of their setting or profession. So you can be a raconteur as well. So this week's Fragment of Fixation might be kind of boring to some, but it's a sunscreen. If you're as pasty as me, you'll know why it's a Fragment of Fixation. But hear me out. You may think sunscreen is just sunscreen, but when you burn as easily as I do, you know it's just not true. After being told by my kid's pediatrician that lots of the chemicals from the sunscreens that we were using are showing up in children's bloodstreams, he recommended that we switch to like a mineral-based sunscreen. And I was a little worried because I was like, we burn so easy. Is it as effective? So I was trying a new one, but I hadn't tried it yet, and it was for a float trip. So I was still a little bit nervous. I did a bit of research, and I tried the Blue Lizard Sensitive Mineral Sunscreen SPF 50. It's an Australian brand, and although it was a little thick, being a lotion kind, it worked amazing. We didn't have to reapply it at all during the whole float, and my little family, none of us got one even shred of red on us. While mostly everyone else that we were with, regardless of what kinds they were using, they applied it multiple times and they still came out somewhat red. Plus, just knowing that at least we aren't using the chemicals on my kids, so I know none of that's getting into their bloodstreams, it does feel comforting. And just FYI, whether you burn or not, please use some kind of SPF, if not to save the way your skin looks when you get older, at least to reduce the risk of cancer. Okay, done ranting. Today was a fun one, exploring a place I've actually enjoyed visiting myself, and hopefully one day you might be able to stay as well. If you like this episode or any of the others, make sure to give us a follow, and if you really like to help us out, like, share, leave a nice review. Be sure to visit our website, A Hushed Hideaway, for all of our up-to-date information, the opportunity to join our monthly newsletter. Until next story.